It's a cold, rainy day on the island of Sodor. At Rolwick's pub, Chile Gas is sitting at a bar considering ordering a drink. He is not happy. An elf walks into the pub and chatter ceases. This is Reloris. She notices the strangely quiet pub and looks around. She sees a particularly sad woman, and next to her is a particularly sad man with a backpack containing a small telescope. Do you study the nature of the beyond? Reloris asks. In what way? Chill responds, slightly suspicious. Reloris, looking sullen and vaguely guilty, says, the Druids don't talk about the Celestials in practical tones. This leaves blindness to practical issues. The gods of my people are ethereal, but have physical bodies. I believe these are subject to... The door is burst open. Where's one of you fuckers that spends your time peeping at them their sky circles, says the man. Baz. Reloris's eyebrows, usually expressionless and dull, betray that she is displeased. She eyes Gas, then her eyes dart back to the loud interloper. Said Cecil to the 20 cat who just burst through the doors. I do. Baz, I need a man with an extraordinarily good magnifying glass. Again the doors swing open, softly this time, and a shadowy figure walks through the door. Reloris's eyes widen, recognizing this as a drow. The new guest, Gaiman, notices and says, I see you judge simply on race, elvish scum. Reloris doesn't react. The bartender speaks up. Galgrim Jeed Hene, he says. This means chill out in Cedric. That's racist. Your vibes are disgusting, Baz says. The room is quite uncomfortable, but more due to the drama than the drow. Reloris notices something. Small black wings furled away on the drow's back. Her eyes dart around the room and back to the curious dark figure. She realizes that this is not just a drow. He's an Averial, a transcendent elf of nearly celestial status. Jill says, that's one too many drinks for me, having no idea what's going on. Gaiman sits next to Reloris and Chiel and orders a hard cider. Reloris pulls out her druidic focus, a small, incredibly intricate imitation of the moon, out of her cloak, and presents it to Chiel. Tell me about this body, she says, gauging his knowledge. Chiel responds, that's a model of our satellite, Luna. I haven't seen such an intricately crafted model of it before. It orbits around our Earth roughly once every 7 days. It's roughly a fourth of the size of our planet, and it's thought to be about 1/80th the mass. Reloris understands the orbital period, but has trouble grasping the concept of size and mass of the moon in relation to the Earth, and says, this Luna is the chief deity of my circle in Kirk Machin. They all know about her, but will not even acknowledge as mundane a practical fact as the periodicity with which she shows us her face. Having had a couple drinks by this point, Gaiman yells out in a slurred voice, does anyone here know astronomy? Meanwhile, Baz is listening in, eating half of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. A man in a dirty uniform of overalls and a cap overhears the conversation and approaches Reloris and Chiel. Hello, I heard you talking about astrology. Reloris returns her moon to her cloak. Chiel ignores the new man, who he recognizes as a railwayman, and lightens up. Wait a minute. Did that model have a far side, or was it just blank? The railwayman continues to interrupt. I overheard some talk in the workshop last night about funny business going on with the new rail line they're building at Kirkrona. Something about a haunted planetarium? Reloris shows Chiel the focus again. It is seamless all the way around, with a proper far side rendered just as intricately as the near side. This model surely cannot be correct. We've never seen it. Luna keeps one face locked to us at all times due to the gravitational influence of our world. Chiel says. The railwayman rudely attempts to snatch the moon model away from Reloris. Let me see that! But he fails to swipe it. Reloris visibly disapproves. Baz consumes some goldfish-shaped cheese crackers from his backpack and takes a sip from a pouch of grape juice. Sensing the possibility of imminent commotion, Gaiman puts his hand on his dagger. Our seers witness the grace of Luna as though she were as close as this focus. Our artisans render her in gem and stone, Reloris explains. Chiel says, Seers, are you by chance at... The The railwayman asks, "So what's all y'all doing here at the same time, making a ruckus about Astro-Watagami?" And he looks at the four, Baz, Gaiman, Cheel, and Reloris. Reloris's eyes dart. She is clearly uninterested in the railwayman and more in what Gas has to say. The railwayman returned to face Baz. "What is it with these guys anyway?" "No clue, my guy," Baz says. Are you by chance a druid or a sorceress?" Cheel asks. "I'm a druid of the moon," Reloris says. "Interesting," says Cheel as Reloris uses a cantrip on the moon focus to cause it to levitate in place in front of her. Cheel's interest is piqued, and thoughts go through his head about the potential knowledge this strange elf might have about the universe. After some silence, Reloris says, "Why do you find yourself so, apologies, downtrodden? You seem to be an astronomer of capability." Cheel pauses for a moment and says, "I've been banished from attending the Academy of Sciences due to my so-called batshit fucking insane theories regarding our universe." Gaiman finally looks at Cheel and Reloris and awkwardly sits down. "You speak of these moon in such worship. Your knowledge may help me in my goals." "I've not seen your like before," Reloris says. She thinks to herself, "Your plight must be immense, bearing the burden of both Dro and of Ariel. What do you seek, Sky Dweller?" Gaiman shakes his head and looks down. "I seek to clear my name. My family and culture have outcast me, as they blame me for the missing Celestial." The moon model centers itself in front of Reloris, almost threateningly. Gaiman continues, "I've been treated as the villain for a century, and I do not want that pattern to continue for the rest of my life." Reloris's face betrays a look of mild surprise. "Your clan blamed the demise of Mask on you?" "Yes, as my ancestry creates distrust," Gaiman says. Reloris's green eyes, without moving, take in the whole of Gaiman. He is a tall, pale, blue-skinned humanoid. His eyes are purple, with red streaks crossing them like a spider web. He has wings, but they're dark, like those of a crow, clearly unable to lift him. A single scar runs down his face. He has a long object of some kind on his back, perhaps a weapon designed in one of the great technological centers of the eastern regions. Gaiman glances at Reloris as well. She is unassuming, seated, a narrow figure almost completely enwrapped in a dusty green hooded cloak, with subtle gold trimmings and an ivy pattern around the front and shoulders. Silver hair, almost a meter long, flows like water out of the hood. The cloak is fastened by two pendants that clearly represent the moon. Standing, she is the tallest in the tavern by a good measure, even compared to Gaiman, moving with a quiet fluidity and grace. Even under the cloak, the figure is of unusual proportion, height versus width, almost as if they could hide by standing. Baz begins to play a quiet tune in his triangle. This visibly annoys Cheel. The railwayman turns to Cheel. "Did you hear about me tell you about that branch line thing? With the haunted planetam or whatever?" Yeah, I think I caught one or two bits of that. What's a planetam?" Baz mutters to himself. Gaiman glances back to Cheel. "I have a request for you, astronomer. I seek to clear my name, and I will need help. You may distrust me, but I swear I will not betray you." What do you propose?" Cheel says. "As I have said, I was cast out as I was thought responsible for Mask," Gaiman says. "If I can find Mask and fix it, I will be vindicated. I cannot live out my life while presumed guilty for something I didn't do. Come with me. The planetarium may be helpful." "Wait a minute," Cheel says, briefly brushing Gaiman's request aside. "Do you happen to know why Mask appeared?" "No, I do not," Gaiman says. "If I did, I would not have at least... If I did, I would have at least had some argument to stop them from casting me out. Instead, I was banished with no recourse." "Why are you asking me, though?" Cheel says. "Why not someone more qualified?" The railwayman interjects. "Well, you're an astronographer. Seems you're the most qualified to solve this mystery." Reloris stifles a chuckle at the constant malapropisms from the railwayman. "It's astronomer," Cheel says. "Astronomer, right. There's a train leaving tonight for Kirk Ronan if you're interested in that planetarium thing," the railwayman says. "What business would I have there?" Cheel says. "Druid, if the planetarium is haunted as our friend here says, your skills in magic may come in handy," Gaiman says to Reloris. She's not the only one with magic, Chill says. Well, my magic is vestigial as best, and I've seen no magic from you, Gaiman says. See, look, you've got yourself an astronomer and a magician, says the railwayman to Gaiman, and he begins to leave. Oh, you bloody whore, Jill screams at the railwayman. I'm a wizard! The bartender speaks up. That blasted railway guard always comes in here getting in other people's business. He finishes washing out a glass and serves some beer to another patron. It's gonna get him into trouble one day. It must be pointed out to our North American friends that a railway guard is equivalent to a railroad conductor, not a police officer of any kind. Why don't you ban him from here then? Jill says. He pays his tab, the bartender says. Druid, I see you are interested. Care to join me in my search? Gaiman says to Roloris. I wish to see the Celestials in a practical way. The planetarium at Kirk Ronan would be my next stop, Roloris says. Then we shall go to the planetarium, Gaiman says. And how can we know that we can trust you? Jill says. I mean, to be honest, your kind isn't exactly the first thing that comes to mind when I think trustworthy. How do we know that you're not just making this up so you can steal from us? Well, you may trust me due to my ancestry. I can assure you that I am not like them, Gaiman says. Roloris whispers to Cheel. He's only half Drow in ancestry. The fact he hasn't unsheathed his dagger yet speaks a volume about his distance from the reputation of the Drow. I'm surprised that you're trusting him as much as you are, Cheel whispers. Why's that? If I would betray you, may Tyre strike me down where I stand, says Gaiman boldly. Tyre won't need to, Roloris thinks, and she whispers to Cheel. He is from the sky, not raised by those. Fine, I'll help him, but if he tries something, then I'm out, Cheel says. Baz put down his juice box. Oh, and I have to come with you guys, because I made a bet that I would solve at least one grand mystery of the decade. So I'm not going to pass this opportunity up. And who might you be? Cheel asks. Bastard Bard, Baz says. Your parents must have hated you. They weren't even married yet, Baz says with a solemn face. That explains it, Cheel says. The clock strikes the hour. Cheel, familiar with railway schedules, being a local of Rolf's Castle, realizes the next train will leave in 20 minutes, and he says so to the group. We must go then, Gaiman says. Fine, Dro, he says, with a slightly condescending tone, as he's still not gained his trust. And that's all we have for now, though perhaps we shall see more in the times to come. Yeet.